We're joined now live from Rhodes by British tourist Russell Hannah. Good to talk to you. You've been there a few days, haven't you? I guess the wildfires have been getting worse progressively.
Yes, I mean, it was basically Saturday morning. Well, Friday, we saw some smoke coming over. And then Saturday morning, we had an announcement by the poolside to say that the ash was coming down and we should be wearing masks. So they did hand out masks to as many people, only really when we got down to the beach after evacuation. Following the ash announcement, we then had lunch. My daughter went back to the room slightly earlier, and then the maid burst in saying we had to pack all of our luggage and go down to evacuate to the beach. So she phoned us, and then we left halfway through lunch, packed up what we could, literally threw some things into bags, and then just went down to the beach and saw the smoke coming across. Then you could see that the helicopters were coming across, picking up water, and then dropping it across the hillside. And then slowly, as time went on, the smoke got further, and you could see it was getting a lot brighter. The sky went completely black, and then at one point, the sun was just a complete red dot, which was quite apocalyptic, really. So we were then forced to evacuate further down the beach because the fires were getting closer, and it was in about 40 to 45 degrees heat walking down there, and with as many bags as we could pack. Some people were taking their suitcases because they'd already packed their luggage. The wheels were falling off, and they were having to try and put the suitcases on their shoulders and carry them down. We were saved very much by the locals along the pathway because they had lots of hose pipes every spotted along all the way where you could douse yourself with water and fill up water bottles. But it was quite intense. We've all got sort of like blisters and flip-flops because we couldn't grab anything else. So we eventually got to a part of the beach where we went up towards Gennady, and halfway up we were picked up on a flatbed truck and driven up where the mayor had opened a school and asked all the locals to start ferrying people up from the beach, delivered like a truckload worth of water, and then they set out big long barbecues for hundreds of pork kebabs for everybody, which was very nice for most people. So the mayor deserves a medal. That was very cool. Appreciated. But then it just, nothing got any better. We went on to be evacuated down to the main road because the fires were coming closer again, waited for another couple of hours for coaches to come, had about one, maybe two, but we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of people out of three main resorts that were being evacuated. And then following that, where the fires were coming over the top of the hill, they sent us back down to the beach again. We waited there for another couple of hours. Fires were getting closer, so we did actually take some footage of the fires licking up into the air. And then we had another trek with all the bags and everything else along the beach before we found a path that was guided up to a main road. Took the main road to the next hotel resort, and then eventually, after being promised for about 8 hours of being picked up by coaches, some coaches did pick us up and took us to the resort we are now in the south of the island.
What a journey it seems to be. We're showing some of the footage that you have taken. What was the evacuation like? What goes through your mind when you see these fires?
Well, it was total chaos because I think obviously it's not known in Rhodes at all to have, I don't believe, many fires as bad as this. And to take us there, the staff were great, but obviously you had the restaurant manager, your front of house staff. And that trying to direct people. But it was dramatic trying to carry everything and get away from the fires as quickly as possible. So, it was waiting for the coaches that were promised. We were told there were 17 coaches on the way, but they had to go around the island because of the fires. And we would be picked up soon. But, we waited and waited, and then we had to evacuate to different parts of the beach before we were eventually picked up. We got here about 2:30 in the morning, so we got some sleep about 3. Woke up, we slept on the floor on the marble. There was just hundreds and hundreds of people across the resort, all sleeping on anything they could find. Some beds, the lounges, the chairs, the floors. Everyone was trying to charge phones to keep in connection with everybody. And that was another thing. Throughout the whole period of time, the electricity failed, so we were waiting in the dark. Only headlights driving past, and that was a form of light and torches. And then, eventually we managed to get some sort of connectivity. and try and find out what was going on before we saw sort of bulletins from Sky and then the rest of the news channels.
Goodness, it sounds quite chaotic and a catalogue of problems for you. Have you been concerned, very, very worried in the past 24 hours?
Well, yeah, I mean, the family have been very concerned. The small children were crying. They were very upset about having to wait and not knowing what's going on. They were saying, which coaches, when's the coach turning up, when it can be collected. So they were very distraught at the time. We were told we just had to wait, and then which we did. But, things weren't turning up. So we were actually wondering if we were going to be there all night, basically. The last place we saw the fire licking over the hills and coming even closer, and then started to get more worrying, and the smoke and the ash was coming down again even further.
When the smoke comes towards you, you like that comes closer. What goes through your mind?
Well, you're very concerned because people are wearing masks. They don't want to breathe the ash in. They're told that the ash is damaging their lungs. The whole sea went black to start with earlier on in the day, and then obviously the smoke blocked out any light whatsoever. That might have been a sort of a help in one way, as we were trying to evacuate down the path, and the sun was being immediately blocked out. So that was some help. But to see the fire coming further and further over and having to evacuate further and further across the island, it was worrying for most concerned.
What goes through your mind now? Are you in a place of relative safety?
They've confirmed that where we are now in the very south of the island at this resort is safe. So we've been waiting to try and see what happens about getting a coach. We're not with one of the main operators. We're with another well-known operator, which we've had no help whatsoever. So the main operator that has hotels in this resort have shipped out all of their guests to evacuation centres.
All right, I think we've persevered, and I think the line's just dropped out there. But Russell, Hannah, many thanks indeed for joining us, and thank you for sharing the images there. Sadia is with